Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Formex Reef 39.5mm. This watch is available from formexwatch.com for €1,960. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a black cardboard watch box, which is protected by a black cardboard outer box. So I'll remove the watch box from the outer box and show it to you. So this is the cardboard watch box. We have a cardboard lid on a cardboard base. This is wholly unacceptable. We're looking at a mid-tier piece costing €1,960. At this price point in the mid-tier, one expects a plastic vinyl coated watch box or alternatively a solid wooden watch box, not a cardboard watch box. This is very low quality and it is a clear cost-cutting measure in order to maximise profit margin. So I'm going to level criticism at Formex for this. Now, one could argue that cardboard is recyclable and therefore environmentally friendly and it is sustainable. But however, when you're spending nearly €2,000 on a mid-tier Swiss-made piece, you expect to see a quality watch box to match the quality piece. So very disappointing from Formex. In the base, we have a padded pillow cushion, which is upholstered with a black velour fabric to a good standard. So you remove the base, and inside you can see there is a pocket which houses the items I'm going to show you. You pull up on the ribbon, which makes it easier to withdraw the items. We have a microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to see a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. You also get a cost chronometer certificate because the Formex Reef 39.5mm we're going to be looking at is cost chronometer certified. So that means the movement is certified to an accuracy of -4 to +6 seconds per day, which is chronometer grade. This details the various positions and also the accuracy in each of those positions, which we'll look at when we discuss the movement. You also get this owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Salita caliber SW300-1 chronometer grade. You also get this spare bezel, which is protected in a sleeve, and as you can see, it's in a plastic case. Now, the bezel on the watch is made from ceramic, and this spare one in the case is a relief bezel and it's made from stainless steel. So the bezel itself is 316L grade stainless steel. The bezel insert is a relief bezel insert made from stainless steel. And as you can see, that is an alternative to the relief ceramic bezel used on the piece. Now, with regards to the items, you also get this rubber strap, which has a stainless steel 2-button push deployant, and the inner portion of the deployant is made from injected microfiber carbon composite. So this has 6 clicks of micro adjustment, which provides 7mm of micro adjustment, and we'll be testing this out. It also features quick release spring bars, as you can see, and this is a feature of the Reef, so we'll be testing out the quick release mechanism used, because as you can see, it doesn't use conventional quick release spring bars. This is an innovation by Formex. And lastly, you also get this Formex branded 1.2mm flathead Julius screwdriver. If you look closely, you can see it has the Formex emblem engraved into it. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. You can see it has the Formex emblem. So hardened tool steel tip to it, knurled shank, and it's anodized in black or PVD coated. And if you look closely, you can also see it says Formex at the top of the shank. So very nicely finished, and it has a rotating head on it, which is very smooth. This is good for resizing the 1.2mm screw pins in the bracelet. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 39.5mm case diameter. Now the thing to note is the Reef is available in 2 case size versions, 42mm and 39.5 respectively. So if you're a collector with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, I recommend the 42 version. If you're a collector with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, I recommend this 39.5mm respectively. So 39.5 case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 45.5mm, a thickness of 11.1mm, and a lug width of 22mm. The bracelet tapers from 22mm at the lugs down to 20mm at the 2-button push clasp, and as you can see, the 2-button push clasp is signed to a high standard with the Formex emblem engraved in high definition engraving. Beautiful luster to the 316L grade stainless steel on the top side, underside and flanks, and we've also got a nice mirror polished bevel which is machined to a good standard. The mirror polishing is very good, no sharp edges, no burrs to the 2-button push clasp, although I think it's undersized, it looks too short for this bracelet. We have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished indices and the silver mirror polished handset. There's a textured finish to the handset, so the edges of the hands are mirror polished to a flawless finish, but the centre sections of the hands have a brushed satin finish which does add interest. Also the second hand, the counterbalance has mirror polished facets to it, but the main body of it is brushed satin finish. So interesting contrast in the finishing to the hands, because it's not just mirror polished handset. We have some brushed satin finishing and mirror polishing on it, which is very good attention to detail. The blue sunburst dial is very aesthetically pleasing, good symmetry to the dial because we have the date complication at 6. One detail I like about the dial is they have scalloped or recessed either side of the date window, and this improves legibility because often with thick dials they create a shadow around the date wheel and the Arabic numerals on the date wheel, but by having these recesses either side it reduces the shadow and improves the legibility of the date complication. So that's a good detail, and it's something I haven't seen at this price point before. Quality of the printing to the white paint on the text on the dial for Formex Reef chronometer and 300 meters is high definition. Nice fine font, clearly legible, and it's very crisp. Also the white minute ticks, which are white paint on the blue sunburst dial, they are printed in high definition printing in white paint, and the legibility is good, the symmetry is good, the proportions of the applied indices are also excellent. Handset is the correct size and proportion. The minute hand extends all the way to the white minute ticks on the chaptering, as does the sweeping second hand. So the proportions of the handset are good, legibility is good, symmetry of the dial is aesthetically pleasing. So as I've detailed, this comes with two bezels. It's a feature of the Reef, both the 39.5mm and the 42 respectively. They have interchangeable bezels. So when you select the colour of the watch, this is the blue sunburst dial version, it comes with a blue relief ceramic bezel insert, but you can also select a spare bezel, as you can see, and this is the stainless steel spare bezel, and the bezels are removable and interchangeable, so we're going to test that out. Firstly, let's look at the bracelet. Now, as you can see, beautiful luster to the brushed satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks, which gives it a tool watch aesthetic. By not mirror polishing the flanks and leaving them brushed satin finished, it does give it more of a tool watch look rather than a dress look, so I think it's very aesthetically pleasing. Male end links are a good tight fit to the head of the piece. Now, the negative of using male end links rather than female pivoted end links is it does project. The lug-to-lug measurement on this is 45.5. Had they used female pivoted end links, that would enhance the fit because the end link in the bracelet would be able to articulate and pull more snug to the wrist. But of course they can't use female pivoted end links because this Reef features the quick release mechanism for the spring bars, which we'll test out. So 120 click unidirectional bezel, which is a gear tooth profile to it. So let's test the bezel execution. Light resistance to it. Now personally I prefer a heavier bezel action. This feels too light. It feels smooth all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. It doesn't get tighter or looser, so that is a positive. No lateral side play whatsoever, no back play whatsoever. So it's a nice tight bezel execution, but the resistance feels very light. So I think it would be better if it were made stiffer and a more medium or firm resistance to it, because it does feel very light. Nice loud audible clicks, and it does feel smooth all the way through the 360 degrees. So I'll just check the alignment. One more click. Perfect. So the lume pip inside the relief triangle on the ceramic bezel insert aligns perfectly with the 12 o'clock index on the dial, and also the 60-minute tick. So the alignment is correct. No lateral side play, no back play, and even all the way through the 360 degrees. Let's test the screw down crown execution. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, knurled finish to it, chamfer on the edge, so no sharp edges to the knurling. and it is engraved with the Formex emblem to a good standard, so well proportioned and also well protected by the angular crown guards, which are deburred and chamfered very well. Nice mirror polished bevels to the crown guards, so the proportions of the crown guards are correct. The proportions of the knurled crown are also correct. Let's test unscrewing it. Silky smooth. This is sublime screw down crown execution, very smooth, minimal number of turns required to unscrew it. So when it's unscrewed, you can manually wind the Sellita caliber SW300-1, which is chronometer grade, to its maximum 56-hour power reserve, which is very impressive. Feels nice and smooth. Nice light resistance to it when manually winding, and one can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to its maximum 56 hours, so very pleasant to manually wind. The SW300-1 is a high grade of movement, and this is very smooth. Pulling it out to the first click position hacks the movement, and if you rotate the crown, pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. Just bear with me and I'll get it. There we are. So rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the quick set complication. If you look closely at the date complication at 6, you can see each day of the month clicks over with a nice positive click. In terms of resistance, it feels very similar to the quick set complication on the SW200-1, which is a lower grade of Sellita movement. The SW300-1 is more premium grade. The build quality, materials, quality control and finishing are higher grade, but the quick set complication feels the same. There's no discernible difference in the quick set date on a 200-1 and a 300-1 respectively. So nice light indexing, but it does align very well. The Arabic numerals are correctly proportioned, and they're not too far to the left or too far to the right. They align correctly in the centre of the recessed date window. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead, so it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. Nice medium firm resistance to the gearing in the SW300-1. It has 25 joules, and you can feel that it's very smooth, and I like the refinement of it. The feeling of it is very smooth, clockwise and anti-clockwise. And one thing I like about it is there's minimal backplay. When you rotate the crown clockwise or anti-clockwise, the minute hand immediately responds. There's minimal backplay in the gearing to take up the slack, so it's a very responsive movement. Feels very refined, very high quality. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the second hand begins to sweep around the dial once again at the 4 Hz frequency. So a nice smooth 4 Hz sweep, very aesthetically pleasing. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Immediate thread pickup. So this is a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Perfect meshing. The quality control, tolerances and machining are outstanding. This is silky smooth, sublime screw down crown execution. There are 2 rubber O-rings which provide an effective hermetic seal to 300 meters of water resistance, 1 rubber O-ring seal inside the crown and a second rubber O-ring gasket inside the crown tube. So 2 rubber O-ring gaskets, 2 hermetic seals, 300 meters is strong specification. Right, so I'll show you the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel, nicely engraved with high definition engraving, and in the centre we have the Formex emblem. The circumference is engraved with a specification, and it's concentric CNC lathe tool machined to a very high standard. The engraving is very smooth. It's not sharp, it doesn't rub against the wrist and irritate, it doesn't feel scratchy, it feels very well polished and deburred. So the engraving is high definition, but it's also very comfortable. The thing I like about the case back above all else is it's very low profile. And this is the benefit of using the SW300-1, which is a low profile movement, as you can see. And this case back isn't a bubble back profile, it's a very flat case back. The centre section is very flat, and bear in mind this provides 300 meters of hermetic seal. We're not looking at a 200 meter water resistant piece. Usually 300 meter water resistant dive pieces need to have a thicker case back in order to provide 300 meters of hermetic seal. This is very low profile, very slim, and Formex deserve credit for a very well executed and very well finished screw down case back. The milled slots are very well deburred, no sharp edges to the slots, and also the concentric CNC lathe tool machining to it refracts the light. It's got lovely concentric CNC lathe tool machining. You can see beautiful the way it catches the light. So the case back is very well finished, very well executed. The male end links have the quick release mechanism which we're going to be testing out. So rather than using conventional spring bars or quick release spring bars, Formex have innovated and they've created their own quick release mechanism. So you simply engage your thumbnail into the groove in the quick release mechanism and that will release the spring bar without using a spring bar tool. So that's very good. So let's look at the clasp. Solid 316L grade stainless steel clasp, as you can see, and this is a micro adjustment clasp. I'll show you the underside. It has a ratcheting mechanism, as you can see, and again we have a trigger you press your thumb or fingernail into and that releases the trigger and you can use the ratcheting mechanism. So plenty of adjustment, we'll test it out. Nice positive clicks. Each click on the ratcheting clasp has a nice loud audible click and it's a heavy click. So they're not fine clicks, they are nice and heavy and there's plenty of adjustment. Now pressing in the trigger deploys the clasp and as you can see plenty of adjustment. I'm just going to test it again. Nice loud audible clicks and we've got plenty of adjustment. I'll just show you the underside. That is the amount of adjustment you've got. So you've got a full link of adjustment. And this is good because in the absence of half links in the bracelet, we've only got full links. It's difficult to get the perfect fit with a bracelet which only has full links and no half links. This could be further enhanced if they put a half link either side of the clasp. But as an option to that, we've got this micro adjustment. So I'll just press it again and deploy it. And you can see we've got a full link of adjustment on it. And it's very good because it does allow for plenty of indexed ratcheting clicks. As you can see, that amount of adjustment works very well. Nice tight tolerances. The bracelet, the end of it, doesn't rattle inside the body of the clasp, so it's well made. With regards to the internals, solid milled 316L grade stainless steel, longitudinal brush satin finishing, no sharp edges to the top side, underside or flanks, doesn't have sharp corners, very well deburred and chamfered, beautiful luster to the 316L grade stainless steel. So the tolerances, the build quality and quality control are all outstanding. Let's check the hinge pins. No play whatsoever in the left hand hinge pin, no play whatsoever in the centre hinge pin, no play whatsoever in the right hand hinge pin. So all three hinge pins in the milled clasp are tight. The tolerances are very tight. The build quality, quality control are 10 out of 10. They deserve credit for a very well executed, solid milled micro adjustment clasp. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet and I'm pleased to report I can slide an index finger beneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. So that indicates that this will fit up to a maximum 8.5-inch wrist. And bear in mind I am now on the maximum micro adjustment in the clasp, one full link. So 8.5 is the maximum with all the links in the bracelet. The bracelet articulates very well. Beautiful luster to it. The brush satin finishing is nice fine grained finish to it and has brush satin finishing on the flanks. I like the mirror polished bevels machined to each of the links and it's absolutely gorgeous the way the luster catches the light. It's a very well finished bracelet. The only negative is the use of male end links on the angular case because female pivoted end links, as I've detailed, will give a better fit because there is a slight gap beneath the angular lugs. The tips do curve down or angle down around the wrist, so it does wrap around the wrist very well. It doesn't sit on top of the wrist like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. But despite the angular case profile, they could still use female pivoted end links. It would look more aesthetically pleasing because the centre link in the end link is long. It's a flat panel of stainless steel. This would look better with a line across it as per female pivoted end link and allow the end link to articulate because as you can see, at 45.5 it is compact, but that male end link with a long slab in the centre prevents the end link in the bracelet articulating and pulling snug to the wrist. If it had a line across it and a female pivot, it would pull much better. But of course they can't integrate that because of the quick release mechanism. So that's the negative of the quick release mechanism, which I'll show you. So wrist presence is good at 39.5. As I've detailed, if you have a larger 7 to 8 inch wrist, you may find the 42mm gives more satisfying wrist presence, but for a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you'll really enjoy the compact case dimensions. 46.6 is a short lug to lug, 45.5 is a short lug to lug. I often refer my reviews as 48mm being the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug to lug measurement, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. 48 is perfection. At 45.5 it's a rather short lug to lug measurement, but the angular lugs do angle down around the wrist, so it doesn't sit on top of the wrist as I've detailed. It does wrap around the wrist well. It's a short case, but it does suit the 39.5 head of the piece. The relief bezel is very aesthetically pleasing. It's got a nice navy tone to it, which complements the sunburst dial, which changes from an electric blue in the centre in direct light to a navy blue. So the sunburst dial is very aesthetically pleasing. The applied indices contrast very well. Legibility is good. Feel good factor is good. It's a good looking piece. Very comfortable to wear due to the flat case back, and as you can see, minimal gap underneath the undercut to the flanks due to not having a bubble back case back. I really like that it's a flat case back, and that's the benefit of using the SW300-1 because it is a low profile movement. Gear tooth bezel is very well finished, and it does catch the light, and it gives a nice tool watch aesthetic to it, so it looks good. Luster is good. The negative of the bracelet is it's very thick. 22mm down to 20 I think is the incorrect taper. 22 to 18 is the industry standard. Alternatively, 20 to 16 is the industry standard. 22 to 18 is a rather odd taper because it doesn't give much of a taper. 22 to 20, it looks rather like a straight and parallel bracelet rather than having a nice taper from 22 down to 18 or 20 down to 16 respectively. So I think they could refine this bracelet by having female pitted end links and also change the taper from 22 to 20, reduce it down to 20 to 8, either 20 to 16 or 22 to 18, and that would also reduce the heft. The thing to note about this piece is it's very heavy. It's 165 grams. Now, the sweet spot for dive pieces is 150 grams because that's comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. At 165 grams, this is 15 grams in excess of the sweet spot. Now, of course, you're going to be removing a lot of links. This is a very long bracelet. This is 8.5 inches it will fit up to. But even so, even removing 4 or 5 links, it's still going to be above 150 grams. So it's a heavy piece, and it is noticeable. You can really feel the heft on wrist, and it's uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time as a result. It just feels too thick and too heavy. And it's not due to the head of the piece, which is compact, it's due to the extra meat on the bracelet. 22 to 20 is excessive. I think a 20 to 16 really would enhance the comfort and also the feel-good factor because, as you can see, the bracelet looks very thick for 39.5mm, which is a compact head of the piece. Right, so let's test out the quick release mechanism on the bracelet, and we'll also test out the bezel. So firstly we'll do the bracelet. So just bear with me. I'm going to remove my right glove because in order to do this one needs to engage a thumb into it. So to remove the bracelet or fit the strap, you need to press your thumbnail into the groove in the quick release mechanism. Now you need to push the trigger toward the case, not away from it, toward. So I'm going to do that and see how easy it is. There we go. And I'll do it on the other side and you'll be able to see it clearer without the bracelet in the way. So you can see that groove, that recess in it. That's where you press your thumbnail into and you press it toward the case. You don't pull it away from the case. So I'm going to press it in, nice light resistance to the trigger, and it immediately responds. So just bear with me and I'll get the camera to focus on it. Now when you press in your thumbnail against the quick release, you can see there, if you look closely, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus. It has the effect of pulling in the spring bars either end. When you release it, they pop out again. So I'll just push it back in again, you can see. It has the effect. It pulls both of the ends of the spring bars in simultaneously, so they both withdraw at the same time from the lugs. So you push your thumbnail in, and it pulls both of them in. And when you release it, they're very heavily sprung loaded, so when I release my thumbnail against the pressure of the trigger, they pop out again. Works very well. So what we'll do is we'll try fitting the rubber strap with a deployment clasp, and we'll see how easy it is to fit. So I'll just get it the right way round. That's the right way. So on the rubber clasp we also have the same quick release mechanism. I'll just get the camera to focus on it and I'll show you. Very similar. We have stainless steel internals which are built into the end of the rubber clasp, the rubber strap, which is very good. So you engage your thumb nail into the groove, and just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. Now if you look closely at the spring bar end, you can see they both retract simultaneously when you press your thumbnail into it. And it's easy to get purchased with your thumbnail because the groove is quite deep and it's got a nice firm resistance to it. You really have to push it in hard, but then it pulls in the end of the spring bar simultaneously. So we'll try it on the case. So I'll just offer it up and then push it in. And that's it, it's engaged as you can see. So I'll just check to see it's nice and tight. No lateral side-side play, no longitudinal play, no up and down play. It's tight. So nice tight fit. The rubber strap with the stainless steel internals, the mechanism inside, is a very tight fit. This is a credible alternative to using standard spring bars or quick release spring bars, and Formex deserve credit because this is innovative. I'm just going to try removing it and see how easy it is to remove the rubber strap like the bracelet. So you push your thumbnail into the trigger, it's nice firm resistance, and that makes the two ends of the spring bars retract. I'm just going to try fitting it once again. You have to get the strap at the right angle, but then it clicks in. Just bear with me, I'll engage my thumb and I'll do it. So sometimes it takes a couple of attempts to get the alignment correct, but then it does work, as you can see. Nice tight fit. So I'll do the other side and then we'll test out the deployant ratcheting mechanism. So push your thumbnail in, you engage it into the groove, and then you push it in. Now you need to get the alignment correct when you're fitting the rubber strap, and then it clicks in with a nice positive click, as you can see. So it's good. Take some practice. Once you've done it a couple of times, you get used to pushing the end of the strap at the right angle into the angular lugs. You have to get the angle correct, because if you don't get the alignment correct, the two spring bar ends don't engage with the two holes in the lugs. But once you get the alignment correct, the angle correct, it snaps in and removes very easily. And it's a nice snug fit. No lateral side-to-side play, no up and down play, no longitudinal play. So it feels nice and secure. It's a robust mechanism. I think it's good. It's a good innovation as an alternative to using a spring bar tool and conventional spring bars or using quick release spring bars. This stainless steel trigger is very well machined. The tolerances are very good, and the strap itself is a good tight fit to the head of the piece. So just bear with me, and I'm going to put my glove back on, and then what we'll do is we'll test out the deployant, and we'll also test out the ratcheting mechanism, because this is another innovation. So as you can see, it's embossed with Formex. Now this is made from injected microfiber carbon composite. Now it feels very like resin plastic. The benefit of using carbon composite is that it is very smooth and therefore comfortable against the wrist. It's also very lightweight, so it's a light and smooth clasp. But my reservation about using injected microfiber carbon composite as a material for a deployant is long-term durability, because it's a hard material but it's also brittle. I personally prefer deployant class to be made from 316L grade stainless steel, because stainless steel is a very robust material. Long term, the durability of stainless steel is outstanding. It's a tough material. The problem with carbon composite in comparison to stainless steel is it's brittle, it's hard, and it has a tendency to crack and also shatter. So my worry about this is, yes, it does look good, and yes, it is smooth against the wrist. It's a comfortable clasp. There's no sharp edges to it. It's been deburred and chamfered very well. So the injected microfiber carbon composite is very well machined. The finishing is good. The problem is, my question is durability. As you can see, it has a stainless steel hinge pin, which is good. But the problem is, how long is it going to last before the holes elongate? Because carbon composite isn't as hard wearing as ceramic, and of course it's not as hard wearing as stainless steel. So durability is my reservation. As yet it is unproven, but Formex deserve credit for innovating and trying to do something different. It snaps shut with a nice positive click. The exterior is made from solid 316L grade stainless steel. It's signed with Formex, both with the text logo and also the emblem, as you can see. Brush satin finishing is good, nice heavy gauge to the body. No sharp edges, no burrs, doesn't have sharp corners, and good finishing because we've got large mirror polish bevels to the edges. So the finishing to the clasp is outstanding. 2 button push triggers are also made from injected microfiber carbon composite rather than stainless steel. I would prefer to see the 2 triggers made from stainless steel for durability, because again, how long is it going to take before the carbon composite wears down? It grinds down against the stainless steel and then becomes a sloppy fit. I think stainless steel triggers would have been more durable long term, but let's test it out. So snap shut with a nice positive click, and as you can see, the strap will easily fit up to a 9-inch wrist or around a wetsuit if you're wearing a wetsuit. So as you can see, easily I can slide an index finger beneath it, and it's not on its maximum extension. This will fit up to a 9-inch wrist with no difficulties. It's a natural rubber strap, so it feels stiffer than silicone rubber. It feels more like FKM fluoro rubber in terms of resistance. It's not going to require any breaking in. Very smooth and comfortable, and it has a nice textured finish to it. Now, when you press the lower pusher, you can extend the strap when it's on wrist. And when you press the 2 halves, the left and the right hand, the 6 o'clock side and the 12 o'clock side of the strap, you can actually adjust the fit of this strap on wrist. It ratchets. So I can actually push it together and it's making a light clicking sound. Now, to deploy it, in order to extend it, you simply press the left-hand pusher only, the lower pusher, not both, just this one. So when you press the lower pusher, that has the effect of extending it. Now, you're supposed to be able to do this on wrist, but in practice, I found it to be difficult. For example, I've now got my thumb pressing the lower pusher and I'm extending it. But pushing the 2 straps together is meant to close it up, but it feels difficult, it feels fiddly to do. So I'm going to try and do it off wrist, because the ratcheting mechanism does work better when you do it off wrist, I've found. So we're now in the minimum extension. I've pushed it in and I can hear the ratcheting click. So we're now on the minimum size. Pushing the lower pusher, if you look closely at the strap, you should see it's going to deploy there. It's deployed. Now, if you look closely, it's got light clicks. There are 6 clicks of micro adjustment on this, and they're very fine, which gives 7mm of micro adjustment on the strap length. So pushing the lower pusher, you can push the strap together without pushing the pusher. To deploy it, to lengthen the strap, you press the pusher, and that allows it to pull out by 7mm. So we're now on its maximum. So if you look at the hole in the strap, you should be able to see it move. So we're now on the maximum extension. I've pressed it. Look at the hole in the strap. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. So I'm now going to push it in. The clicks are very fine. So you've got 6 clicks or 7mm of micro adjustment. Now it's now locked. It's not going to accidentally open up. It's not going to expand. But if I press the lower pusher, I can pull it back out. You can see the hole is now visible again. So I'm just going to test it a couple of times. So 7mm of adjustment, nice light clicks, closes up, pressing the lower pusher, deploys it. It's fiddly. You're supposed to be able to do all of that when it's on wrist. I'll just try it one more time on wrist because I don't want to level criticism at Formex, which is unfair. So as you can see, the hole is now exposed. It's now on its maximum 7mm of extension. Now I should be able to get it to close up. I can hear it clicking, the fine clicks, and it is closing up. I want to give credit. Yes, I can hear the 6 clicks. And as you can see, the hole has now disappeared. So the 6 clicks on wrist, you don't need to take it off the wrist in order to close up the length. You can make it 7mm shorter on wrist. But my issue is getting it to lengthen by pressing the lower pusher on wrist. I'm pressing in the lower pusher. I can do it. So as you can see, the hole is now visible through the strap. We've got 7mm extended. I'm just going to try pushing it up again, closing it up. It is possible, but it does feel tricky. Now I'm sure with practice you'll probably get better at it, but the point is this a better alternative than a buckle and tang? Or is it a better alternative than a rubber strap with a glide lock style mechanism? No. The reality is a buckle and tang is simple, but it works. And it means that you don't have to mess around pressing the pusher and clicking on the micro adjustment. I think that really this is not necessary. The negative of this is if you look at the clasp, you can see how bulky it is. It sticks out because the underside of the rubber strap, I'll take it off and then you'll understand better. When I close the deployment, you can see there's this gap. I'll put my glove behind it and you'll see it better. You see the rubber strap. Now, I've got a large 8-inch wrist, but even so, there's lots of length on the end of the strap to fit up to a 9-inch wrist or round a wetsuit. But if you look at the curved profile to the injected microfiber carbon composite deployant, you can see the end of the rubber strap doesn't fit inside it. You see there's this gap. When it's on wrist, you've got 3 layers. You've got the rubber strap on the outside of your wrist, then you've got the deployants, then you've got the rubber strap on the inside. Look at the thickness. That's what's wrapping around your wrist. So you've got all this meat on the outside of your wrist, and it's just not comfortable. Now, compare this to a buckle and tang, which is far more low profile. The buckle and tang is simple, but it's lower profile and ultimately more comfortable. This is just overcomplicating something that doesn't need innovation. A buckle and tang does work, or alternatively, a glide lock style clasp on a cut-to-length FKM rubber strap or an oyster flex style strap. Now, as you can see, even on wrist, this thick rubber strap isn't going to fit inside the curved cutout of the deployants. It's just not good. It's too bulky, as you can see. And as I've detailed, my reservation is the durability of injected microfiber carbon composite versus stainless steel. So too bulky and too fiddly to use. 2 button push triggers should be stainless steel for durability rather than injected microfiber carbon composite. So I think they've tried to innovate, but they've tried to create a problem to solve that just doesn't exist. There is no need for this. A buckle and tang does suffice and it's more durable. Right. So we've tested the quick release end links. Now let's test the bezel, which is interchangeable. Now, in order to remove this, I need my thumbnail. So this has interchangeable bezels. You can remove the bezel in any position. You simply put your thumbnail underneath it, or alternatively your index finger now. It comes off like so, and you can snap it back on with a nice positive click in any position. So I'm just going to check it a couple of times. Comes off nice and easy. And I'll try snapping it back on in a couple of different positions. Now, if it doesn't come off the first time, you simply rotate the bezel and it will come off the next time. Now, it doesn't matter about the orientation. For example, you don't need to line up the loom, pip and triangle bang on 12 o'clock on the 12 o'clock index or the 60-minute tick. So you don't have to worry about bezel alignment. It doesn't matter where in the 360 degrees you snap on or remove the bezel, it will always align due to the 120 clicks. So I've removed that one. Let's try it with this stainless steel relief bezel. So we're just going to snap it on randomly in any position, and it snaps on with a nice positive click. Let's check the bezel execution. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. No lateral side-side play, no back play. Light resistance. Now, the negative is I think the resistance is too light. I prefer a medium or firm resistance. This feels very light, but it does feel smooth all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. No lateral side-side play, no back play. I'll just check the alignment of this stainless steel relief bezel. One more click. No, one more. Perfect. The loom, pip and triangle perfectly aligned with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. I'm just going to check it 2 more times for consistency. One more click. Perfect. I'll check it a 3rd time just to be sure. One more click. Right, so 3 out of 3 times. The loom, pip and triangle perfectly align with the double indices at 12 and the 60-minute tick. Now I'm just going to try removing this and refitting it a couple of times in different positions just to make sure that it works well. So you can do it 2 ways. You can either put your thumbnail underneath it, or alternatively, if you prefer, you can put your index finger underneath it. I find it easier to use my thumbnail underneath it at 6 o'clock. Snaps on with a nice positive click. Good. So I'm just going to try putting the ceramic one back on. Nice positive click, and it feels exactly the same in terms of resistance, nice and smooth, even all the way through. So sometimes it doesn't come off first time, but I found if you just rotate it again, then it will come off. I'll just show you the underside because you might not have seen the underside of a bezel. So usually with bezels they have a click spring, and the click spring engages in the grooves beneath the bezel, and as you can see, I'll just get the camera to focus. That's how it works. That gives you 120 clicks. There are 120 grooves machined in the underside of the stainless steel bezel, and this is secured by a bezel ring. There's a spring inside a groove, and that's what makes it click on the head of the piece. So there's a click spring, and also we've got a spring which secures it to the head of the piece, and 120 click grooves are very well machined. I'll just have a look at the underside of the stainless steel relief bezel in comparison. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus. Very good quality control, machining and tolerances to the 120 clicks. It's a nicely machined bezel, and I'll just show you the head of the piece close up so you can see what it looks like without the bezel on it. So we've got a ratcheting click spring mechanism on the head of the piece which engages with the 120 grooves. So that's what it looks like without it. So good system, works well. Bezel execution is very good. Bezel snaps on, and it really is very easy to remove it and snap it on. No lateral side-side play, no back play. Perfect alignment, and it feels even all the way through the 360 degrees. So this is an innovative concept, being able to change the bezel. You can change the look of your watch. I like it. I think that Formex deserve credit because it does work very well, and there's no risk of it accidentally coming off. So I think it's secure, but also easy to remove and easy to put back on without using any tools. Right, so let's do a loom test, and we'll see how the loom performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. Just bear with me, I'm going to put my glove back on. So this uses BGW9 Superluminova. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. This is clearly 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 on the loom pip inside the relief ceramic bezel insert, the applied indices, and also the hands. So good colour tone match. The blue tone on the loom pip, the dial and the hands is all the same blue tone. The exciter is glowing brightly in a nice white blue tone. This is clearly good quality Swiss BGW9 Superluminova. It's glowing incredibly brightly, and it will continue to glow for a good length of time without fading, and this is the correct performance one expects at €1,960 in the mid-tier. I'm pleased to see Formex haven't cut any corners with regards to the quality of the BGW9 they're using. This clearly isn't 3 to 4 layers, this is 5 to 6, which is the industry standard. Nice blue tone to the BGW9. I also like the loom pip dots on the sweeping second hand, which is sweeping around at 4 Hz. Nice smooth sweep to it, but it's clearly legible. So you can read the handset very well because the minute hand is a lot longer than the shorter hour hand, but the proportions are correct. Symmetry of the dial is good, and also it's good they've put a small index beneath the date complication at 6. Often brands with a date window at 6, they delete the index at 6, but this does have a small index, so we have good symmetry, and the orientation of the dial is very good. You can immediately tell where 12 o'clock is because of the double indices at 12 rather than a single index. So legibility is good, and the clarity is good, performance is good. Nice large plots of BGW9 on the handset, very nice performance, and I like the large loom pip inside the relief bezel, so very good performance. Right, so let's discuss the movement used because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this uses the Sellita SW300-1, which is a level above the 200-1. It's a premium grade of movement, and it is the top grade, which is chronometer grade. So the stated accuracy is -4 to +6 seconds per day when it's COSC chronometer certified, and I'll show you the chronometer certificate because we want to discuss that. It has 25 joules, it has hand binding and hacking, which is used for complications, and a quick set date complication, which works very well as I've demonstrated. It runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz, so the 4 Hz gives a nice smooth sweep to the second hand. 56-hour power reserve is very impressive. This is something I really like about the 300-1. To put that into perspective, the SW200-1, which is a lower grade of Salita caliber, has 38 hours. This has 56, which is incredibly long power reserve. So 56 hours is beneficial, and the stated accuracy is -4 to +6, so it's accurate and also long power reserve. Usually with 4 Hz movements that run at 28,800 vibrations per hour like this, when you extend the power reserve, you have to sacrifice accuracy. If you want more accuracy, chronometer grade accuracy, you have to sacrifice power reserve. So you have to get a balance between the power reserve and the accuracy. So it's easy to regulate a 38-hour movement such as the SW200-1 to get it to within chronometer grade accuracy of -4 to +6. It's more difficult with a 300-1 because it has a longer power reserve, not 38 hours, we're looking at 56. So it has a high power reserve, but also it retains the chronometer accuracy of -4 to +6. And this is something that Formex deserve credit for because they're regulating the movements to chronometer grade in 5 positions. So let's look at the certificate, because this is something I like about this piece. It's a chronometer piece. It says on the dial chronometer, and it is indeed COSC chronometer certified, and this is the COSC certificate. So COSC have very robust and stringent chronometer testing. They test the movements after casing, so after the movement is put into the watch. They then test it in various positions. So we have the serial number of the piece, and inside, on the left, we have all the positions that they test the movements in. For example, vertical and horizontal, etc. So they show all the different positions, 6 hours, 3 hours, 9 hours, and then on the right-hand column, we have the daily rates. So for each of those positions, COSC record what are the daily rates, what is the accuracy in each of those positions. So for example, 4.89 seconds, 4.97 seconds, 2.11 seconds, and so on. So this details all the accuracy, all the daily rates in seconds for every single one of the positions. So as you can see, very thorough testing. Now, the most important of all of these measurements is on the back. This is the reverse of the certificate, because on the top left we have the mean daily rate in different positions. And the mean daily rate is the one that you really need to pay attention to. So the mean daily rate of this movement is 3.23 seconds per day. So in all the positions, the mean rate of all of those positions is 3.23. 3.23 seconds is well within the -4 to +6 seconds per day it needs to be chronometer rated by COSC. +3 per day. Outstanding. So SW300-1, this is chronometer grade. It's the top grade of SW300-1. +3 seconds per day is well within COSC chronometer limits. Good to get the certification to prove it. So at this price point, it's very good to get an SW300-1, €1,960, and also good to get COSC chronometer certification with it. So this is a verified chronometer movement. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, the price point is $1,960. I'm going to say the quality is good. The value is okay. I'm not going to say good value or excellent value because I think there's room for improvement. The thing I dislike about it is the relief bezel, because the legibility of it is poor. This is the negative of using a relief bezel. Yes, they're aesthetically pleasing. It does look like a Rolex Yachtmaster with a relief platinum bezel. But the legibility is poor. The minute ticks are hard to see in the first quarter, up to 15 minutes, and the Arabic numerals are hard to read. Now bear in mind, this is meant to be a dive piece. If you use this underwater as a dive piece, which is its intended purpose, it's hard to read this dark ceramic relief bezel. I would prefer to see it either white painted or alternatively loomed with BGW9 Superluminova, and that would improve the legibility. Now I'll apply the same criticism to the relief bezel. Again, this looks aesthetically pleasing. It looks like the relief bezel used on a Rolex Yachtmaster with a platinum relief bezel. Aesthetically pleasing, well finished, but legibility is poor. If you use this underwater as a dive piece, the legibility of the bezel is poor. It does have a good performing BGW9 lume pip, so that's fair enough. But the minute ticks in the first quarter, the first 15 minutes, and the Arabic numerals, they are not legible. So they really need to consider using white paint, or alternatively using BGW9 and looming the bezels in order to make them more legible. But with regards to the innovation, yes, it is nice to be able to remove the bezel without tools and fit a different bezel to change the look of the watch. The quick release mechanism to the rubber strap and the bracelet does work very well. The negative is this deployant strap, which is made from injected microfiber carbon composites, because of it's difficult to use. Pressing the lower pusher does get it to deploy, and you can get it to ratchet back in. The 6 clicks and 7mm is adequate, but it's just not easy to use. You're meant to be able to do it on wrists, and I find it to be fiddly. The thing I dislike about it is the bulk. As you can see, look at the gap there. So this needs to be refined. I think they could do better. So I dislike the deploying clasp. I do like the quick release mechanism for the spring bars, the end links, and I do like the bezel, which is interchangeable. So there are some positives and some negatives, and I do appreciate Formex are trying to innovate and do something different to other mid-tier brands. They deserve credit for trying to innovate. So I'm going to say that the quality is good, but the value is okay. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Formex Reef 39.5mm. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.